Good morning, everyone. This is Lori Delk-Radecki with the Nashville Networking Business Luncheon. So we do these several times a month all over Middle Tennessee. Our in-person schedule is on our website at NashvilleNetworkingBusinessLuncheon.com. You can also join our groups on Facebook as well as LinkedIn. And we also do these every single week live right here on Zoom on Tuesdays. So if you're getting out in public, you are welcome to join us in our actual in-person meetings. And if you're not getting out in public, or even if you want to have an addition, you can join us on our Zooms every week right here on Tuesdays. So we always have a 10-minute speaker who talks to us about different tips, tricks, ideas, things that can help us both in our personal as well as our business life to help get us to that next level. And then after that, we're going to go around the room. Everybody has 1 minute to give us your name, what you do for a living, and how we can better refer other people to you. After that, everyone can tell us a little bit about each other, and then we're going to network and get to know each other a little bit. We exchange business cards, of course, in person, in real life, and then right here on Zoom, we do it right in the chat. You can click the chat at the bottom and that will open up your screen. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. So our speaker today is Mr. Bert Copeland. So please give him your attention. Thank you.
I guess I gotta unmute. And you didn't read my introduction because you didn't think it was my introduction. So we're going to bypass on all that. When was the last time you made a decision? Maybe a little decision or a big decision. We all make little decisions. What am I going to wear? What am I going to eat? What am I going to watch on TV? Well, I had to make a decision once. And the road wasn't quite so straight. My first wife had died in Thanksgiving of '81. I had 3 children, and the oldest was 12, and he wanted to live with his grandparents. And I decided to let him, because in the state of Ohio, if a child wants to live with another family member in a single parent situation, they can do that. But as I dropped him off at his grandparents, I leaned in his ear and said, I love you, but you're going to have to live by the decision you've made. It seems as a society, we all have a problem with decisions. I think part of it is because when we're growing up, we let our parents make all of our decisions for us. You do this, you do that, you go here. Then we go to school. And our friends help make our decisions for us, what you're going to wear, how you're going to act. Even when we go to college, all of a sudden we find out about drinking and a bunch of other things that are a lot of fun, and that's a decision that we make. But there comes a time when you have to make a real decision. Now, I know that if you Google this, because I did it, on how to make a decision, you're going to get 1 1/3 million hits. So I'm going to share something with you today that seems to work for me. It seems to make sense. And I think that's the key to all decision making. Because as we're looking to make a decision and we're looking to go down that straight path on the road, there's a lot of things we got to look at. And the first thing I want to talk to you about is zooming out from the situation. You got to zoom out from it. And that is the hardest thing in the world to do because there is a thing called decision bias. It was implanted in you by your friends. It was implanted in you by your church. It was implanted in you by your parents. And that is the hardest thing to get away from, that bias that we have built in. So to zoom out, I always look back at the happenings of a man named Louis Zamperini. In 1943, his B-24 went down in the Pacific, and Louis and 2 of his companions floated on a raft for 47 days. And then, joy, oh joy, the Japanese picked him up and tortured him for a couple more years. But the thing was, people asked Lewis, I bet you had problem thinking. I bet you were hallucinating. He went, no, our thinking was clear because we woke up every day without the din and the noise of war. We were able to think clearly. And that's what I'm asking for you to do, to zoom out. I want you to zoom away so you can think clearly about your decision. And it's very hard to do. It's not easy. It's not easy at all because there's so many possibilities. The second thing I want you to do after zooming out and looking at it and sort of coming to a decision is to weigh the outcomes. In 1836, when Colonel Travis was at the Alamo and he drew a line in the sand and he said, we've been here for 12 days and this is it. If you stay, you're dying. How many of us could have stepped over that line? You got to weigh the outcome. You got to weigh the outcome for you. You got to weigh it for your family. You got to weigh it how it's going to affect those you love. The third thing I want you to think about is no perfection. When I first started looking into doing videos on Zoom, my first video was a talk that I'd given 40 or 50 times about things you can do to save people's lives. It was an easy talk. I recorded it, re-recorded it, hashed over it, re-recorded it. But you know what? Done is better than perfect. If you ever heard Darren LaCroix talk, the World Championship of Public Speaking for Toastmasters, he gave his winning speech 700 times. And it still wasn't perfect. So there's no perfect. And then you got to set a time limit. You got to say, this is it. That's the time limit. That's all well and good. You've made your decision. What do you do now? What you got to do now is own it. Just like Steve Jobs, when he went back to Microsoft. He went back to Apple, and he said to them, "We are already millions in debt. We are. That's past. We've got to own it. And right now, we're not going to be a computer company. We're going to be an entertainment company. And guess what everybody's looking for today? The new iPhone." He took what he had, which was now, which looked terrible, and he looked at it a different way and made the decision, we're going to go there. That's what we're going to do. Sounds easy, huh? You don't have millions at stake. But you got to empower your decision once you make it. You got to give it legs. It's got to have some momentum. You can't just say, this is my decision. This is what I'm going to do. You got to step out there. Just like when I finally stepped out there with my first video on YouTube. I said, well, here it is for better or worse. And guess what? Nobody cared. Nobody cares. I was the one that cared. Nobody cared. It's got to matter to you. There was a couple things that helped shape my decision making. I'm going to share them right now. One of them is a book, Yes, Yes, Hell No, well, get over here, by Brian Wheaton. And I studied with him for over a year. And I really liked his stuff until I got into the one on the power of decision. And he says in his book, and I believe, not like Brene Brown, who thinks the most important thing is being vulnerable. His statement is the most important thing of the human mind is making a decision. So I want you, and I'm going to challenge you to make a decision right now. For the next 30 days, because there is so much din of war, din of media. I want you to turn off the media. Go vote who you're going to vote for. Do what you got to do there. Watch what you need to do on the weather, but don't think that any of that makes any difference once you've made your decision. I've made my decision, that's it. Don't listen to anybody else. Don't look for, oh, I need support. No, you don't. You're your best supporter. But then what I want you to do is to move forward from the now. Just like Steve Jobs, take what it is now and move forward with it and make that your goal. Every day is the now. What can I do today You guys are in the change business. I'm in the change business. When you turn off the noise that I talked about here, and you start thinking about how you can do your job better, this becomes the greatest boon in the world. Ask Tony Robbins and Graciani. They're making millions teaching people knowledge brokers. You can too. It's different times. You just got to change what you're doing. You got to make the decision. So my decision for you is all to have a happy day. And I want to thank you for having me at your meeting.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You guys, if you are watching us live, you can join us in person at the different meetings as well as live here on Zoom. Once again, our schedule is at NashvilleNetworkingBusinessLuncheon.com. You can also join our groups on Facebook and LinkedIn, both the same Nashville Networking Business Luncheon. This ends our recorded portion. Thank you and hope to see you soon.